Friend of the show and D.C. bureau chief of The Intercept, Ryan Grim, he was one of the first to cover Tara Reade's allegations against Joe Biden. And since then, mainstream media investigated Tara Reade's story and has raised concerns about a lack of evidence. However,
Ryan has broken a new bombshell story. So there is actual video evidence supporting Tara's claim that a call from her mother came into the Larry King Live show back in 1993. And Ryan joins us now to tell us more. Great to see you, Ryan.
Good to see you, Ryan.
Hey, good to see you guys.
So just lay out the sort of context of this story so people understand how this came to be.
Right. So Tara Reade has been kind of plumbing the depths of her memory over the last several weeks and months, trying to find ways that she could corroborate that she had told people contemporaneously, about either the sexual harassment or the sexual assault allegation, to try to stand up her credibility so that it doesn't look like she's just kind of coming out with this in 2020 and wasn't concerned at all about it in 1993. And one of the things she mentioned to me, and I believe to some others, was that she remembered her mother calling into the Larry King Live show at some time in the 1990s, saying that her daughter had worked for a prominent senator and had been retaliated against, and what could she do? Retaliated against for bringing claims of sexual harassment, through the process. And what could her daughter do? Now, we spent a lot of time looking for that, and to our discredit, we were not able to find that clip until a listener and reader of The Intercept kind of sent it to me on Friday. I had mentioned in an interview that she had made this claim about her mother calling Larry King, and somebody found it. And I felt like an idiot. They used a kind of Nexus University account, and I didn't realize that Nexus transcripts went back to the early 1990s, or else we would have been able to find it in 10 or 15 minutes. It wasn't terribly hard once you're using that Nexus transcript service. So anybody that has access to that and wants to find it, can pretty easily go find it. Now, Tara had said that her mother was not named, which made it much more difficult, to find the call. Larry King doesn't name his callers. If you remember his show, he'd say, Seattle, go. And in this case, he said San Luis Obispo. She was living in San Luis Obispo at the time. She said, my daughter recently left a prominent senator's office. Tara had said.
Let me pause you, because we have the actual video, so let's take a look at it.
Let's listen.
Yes, hello. I'm wondering what a staffer would do besides go to the press in Washington. My daughter has just left there after working for a prominent senator and could not get through with her problems at all. And the only thing she could have done was go to the press, and she chose not to do it out of respect for him.
So she says a prominent senator. She doesn't get specific, but what did you make of that?
So what was interesting is that, according to Tara, and also backed up by her brother and her friend, her mother was the most bothered of everybody that she told about her sexual assault by Biden. Tara didn't believe necessarily at the time that she had been sexually assaulted. She thought she did the typical thing that you hear so often from women in those situations. What did I do to bring this on? What happened? I wasn't sending any signals, but what happened? How could this have happened to me? And her mother's longtime feminist activist was like, no, that's not okay. You were assaulted. That you should go to the police over what happened to you. And her brother confirmed that he remembered her mother saying she should go to the police. So did her friend. And Tara said, absolutely not. I'm not going to do that. If you notice in the call, she doesn't say police. She says press. Now, by this time, Tara had made clear to her mother that she didn't want to go public with this. So you can kind of imagine how, if you're her mother and you're making this anonymous call, you kind of know that if you use the word, she worked for a prominent senator, and the only thing she could do was go to the police, alarm bells are going to go off everywhere. Right. Okay, what happened that required a mother to think that she should have gone to the police over this incident? If you say the only thing she could do is go to the press, then you've dialed it down slightly. But you also have to think that this is 1993. So what kind of workplace incident would the press actually be interested in? Now, Joe Biden was the chairman, of the just recently concluded, or it's a couple of years earlier, Anita Hill hearings. You could argue that she's talking about some serious sexual harassment and a culture of harassment in the workplace, which might rise to the level of press interest just based on the hypocrisy of the way that Democrats had hammered Clarence Thomas for his own sexual harassment just years earlier. So this isn't conclusive evidence that she told her mother about the sexual assault, but it buttresses her credibility. She said this Larry King call existed. It does exist. Her brother says she told her mother. Her friend says she told her mother. She says she told her mother. So that it just kind of adds to the pile of evidence. But for people who don't want to believe it, they certainly still have ways to not go there.
Right, and Ryan, I think it's worth asking about Joe Biden about this, no? And yet, we have yet to see a single question based upon this new evidence that has been asked to Joe Biden. The media didn't have an opportunity since you broke this story, but they did have, as we covered earlier on the show, they had 3 potential vice presidential picks on the Sunday shows over the weekend, and not a single one of them was asked. And as I understand it, Ryan, this is your first TV interview, so to speak, about the story that you broke of monumental national importance. What do you make of this, having put this information out there as the man who put the Brett Kavanaugh accusation out there? Let's compare the two, since you were intimately involved in both of those situations.
I think that the Biden campaign knows that he's going to have to address this at some point, and they have a fine line to walk. Let's say that he believes that something consensual happened in the hallway. Let's just go there. He can't admit that. A, he was married at the time. B, they've already flatly denied that anything inappropriate happened remotely. She was in her 20s. He was in his 50s. She was a subordinate in his office. So even if something like that happened, he's not going to be able to admit it. I can't imagine he would possibly admit to what she's alleging happened. So he's stuck between this situation where he can either say nothing or call a woman a liar in the context of the Me Too movement. So there are no obviously good ways out of this for him. And so far he has commented through his deputy campaign manager and his former basically office manager. But like you said, that's not going to be tenable for the long run.
Right. Yeah. Well, and to your point that you make in the piece, part of why this is so problematic for Biden is because they've gone so hard as to say nothing happened, no complaint was even raised with the office manager. We never heard one single thing, which, kind of strained credulity to start with, just given the public behavior we know about Joe Biden. But because they went so hard, when any evidence emerges that no, in fact, some concerns were raised, even whether they were just harassment or whether it went as far as sexual assault, which Tara doesn't even say that she raised those particular allegations with anyone in the office at the time, but it really undercuts that defense that they've laid out there.
I think that's an important point from related to the context of their response. They like you said, they came out and flatly said not only did Tara Reade not complain about inappropriate conduct or workplace harassment while she was at the Biden office, but in her 20 years, the office manager said nobody ever did, and she never observed any. It's claiming that you've never observed Joe Biden, exhibit inappropriate behavior in the workplace is absurd on its face, because millions of people who have just watched videos or have kind of interacted with him in the United States Senate.
Happened out in the open.
So on its face, that's an odd thing to just blanket deny. And then it emerges that the mother said she wasn't able to get through with her problems. So now you're left with, well, why on earth would Tara Reade lie to her mother that she complained to the office about a sexual harassment, and nothing happened? what does Tara get from telling that lie to her mother?
Right.
You know, it just absolutely makes no sense. So it seems pretty clear that what this does confirm is that that blanket statement that there was never any complaint filed about anything isn't true. And so then that goes to the broader credibility of the entire denial.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And then last question, Ryan, is there anything else you can't find that you need listeners and people's help on?
Well, you know, there are a ton of people who, you know, worked in the Biden office in and around that orbit who might be able to contribute some, you know, useful information about Senate culture. You know, there's still the complaint that she filed, if it still exists, would be with the University of Delaware. But that complaint, she says, only includes allegations of office harassment.
Right.
And so, you know, even if the University of Delaware does agree to say, okay, this is a matter of public importance, we'll search these files and we'll release it if we find it, you know, it wouldn't actually end the question, because you have this interesting situation where the Biden campaign is flatly denying that anything remotely happened. But a lot of Biden defenders are actually at a place where they're like, you know what, we actually do believe her that she was sexually harassed in the workplace and that the office didn't handle that. We believe that fits with what she said in April 2019 when she came forward. It fits with what her mother said in this call to Larry King. What we don't believe is this additional charge of the incident in the hallway with Senator Biden. So even if the document came out, it would further undermine the Biden campaign's blanket denial. But so many of Biden's supporters have already kind of folded on that part of it that it actually wouldn't add that much to the conversation.
Well, there you go.
Well, we are very lucky and grateful to have your first on-camera interview about this massive bombshell, but I kind of can't believe that no one else is knocking on your door to hear from you on the scoop. Ryan, thank you so much. Great as always to see you.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks, guys.
Coming up, Biden's starting to sound a bit more like a progressive when it comes to the lackluster bailout measures so far by Congress. We're going to explain. That's next.